10 Magic cards rated, day number 200, everybody. We made it. They said we'd never make it, and here we are together. First of all, there might be a few new butts in the seats for a nice round number like this. If so, welcome to the place. Hope you have a good time here today, and if so, hope you consider coming back for another one of these videos. But just imagine, because it's a celebration today, just imagine there's pyro going off, there's streamers everywhere, right? There's confetti popping, there's pretty ladies, maybe a sports car spinning around in the background. We don't have the budget for all of that. And even if we did, I think we could probably spend that money a little bit better. Either way, just imagine in your mind's eye that's all happening, because today, not only is it a celebration, but I feel it. I think something's going to happen, everybody. I feel that after 200 videos of not hitting Black Lotus or any of the Moxen or any really of the Power 9 whatsoever, today may just be the day. I feel a tiger lurking in the tall grass. So let's jump in and see. I can sense the shadow, the imprint of a catfish larger than an aircraft carrier on this lake. So let's see what happens. It's Thornado from Modern Horizons, her first card of the day. This is 2 and a green for an instant with cycling 1 and a green. You can destroy target creature with flying. So a plummet effect that costs 50% more, but you can main deck it. Is that worth it? I don't know. Most of the time, no. It still doesn't see main deck play. Why would it see main deck play unless you're in limited, probably? I'm still going to start the day with like a 4.2 on this card, because you're not going to main deck it right in Commander. But if your deck cares about cycling, maybe. If you know your pod has a lot of important flying creatures and you're like a mono green deck, maybe. Uses of the card are fairly narrow, but that is somewhat alleviated by the fact that it freaking has cycling. So not a terrible card to get to start the day, but it's not the fish we're looking for. Let's throw it back for now. We get Temporal Fissure next from Scourge, which is banned in Pauper. Let's keep that in mind. This is 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a sorcery. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Storm. This should probably not be banned in Pauper. Am I stupid? What does this do? Any Pauper players in the audience? Is there a doctor in the house that can diagnose what's going on here? I mean, obviously the card kind of looks annoying. Are all cards that say Storm just banned in Pauper? Is that what might be? Me smells something going on with this one. 5 mana is a lot. I mean, can we not just basically have like River's Rebuke in Modern, in Pauper for that matter? Who cares, I don't know. It seems annoying. Maybe that's the whole reason. But I really would like, if there's a Pauper player down there who knows like the deck that this goes off on turn 3 or whatever, just let me know, because I'm not convinced that this should have the status that it has. But it is cute. I think if you're storming, you're going to be doing more than this. I think if you're sweeping the board, you're going to be doing better than this. But there are times you turn it into Cyclonic Rift. But just play Cyclonic. Cyclonic Rift's a good Magic card. I don't think it's really comparable to this one. So, despite my better judgment, considering it's banned in a format, I'm just going to give this like a 3.2. I don't see it. So we'll move on. I'm going to look like a big old dumb dork and move on to the next card. It's Fiend Hunter here. This is the card that effects like it are named after for the most part. Although some people say Banisher Priest instead. It's up to you. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for a 1/3 human cleric. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile another target creature. And when Fiend Hunter leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Now, not all of these creatures are worded just so. Now, what this means in this particular case, not every time you see a creature like this, but in this case, is that you can play the Fiend Hunter, comes into play, his ETB trigger hits the stack, and then while his ETB trigger is on the stack, you can sacrifice him. And whatever you pick off will never come back, ever, because that second trigger, you see, can never, it doesn't resolve. It doesn't see that your Fiend Hunter has left the battlefield, because there isn't a thing under your Fiend Hunter yet. Is any of this making sense? I promise it does work this way, and it was a trick that we used for a long time. And Fiend Hunter is slightly better than some of the variants on Fiend Hunter, because he does that and some others don't. But that said, Fiend Hunter's still not necessarily the card he used to be. This is a pretty playable dude back in his standard, in Innistrad. I think we got really used to him back then, like humans decks. But as it stands, this is still a pretty baseline, read decent version of this ability. So I'll give Fiend Hunter a 4.15, somewhere in that neighborhood. I like creatures that remove creatures, but the problem is they get hit by removal. So, they're best hitting tokens and stuff like that. But next is Divine Offering. Boy, this is an old Magic card. This is an old one, baby. Originally printed in Legends. 2 mana, 1 and a white for an instant. Destroy target artifact and gain life points equal to the casting cost of artifact. Boy, that's some wording. It's like they tried to word it weird. This happened on a lot of cards back in the day. Destroy target artifact. Okay, fine. You gain life points equal to casting cost of artifact. Like suddenly they're cavemen, you know what I mean? What happened? Well, you know, we had to go get Quiznos, so we let the Dave's 8-year-old take over the copywriting. This is this is still okay, but you know, only in like life gain decks, I guess. You can get a Legends copy of this for less than $1, and I think that's kind of worth it just to have it. You know, but I can't rate it too highly. This is just like a 2.8, somewhere in that neighborhood. I really wish I could give it a better score than that, but I can't. I think in most cases, just like Disenchant's going to be better than this, and you can do better than Disenchant. So what does that tell you? We'll move on to Pyrro Classic Elemental from Core Set 2020 here. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for a 5/4 Elemental. You can pay 1 2 red to have it deal 1 damage to target player. You got infinite red mana. Huh? You know, that's easier said than done, I guess. And even if you do have infinite red mana, there's probably other things, you know, than like an earth elemental with an activated ability, but at least it's an earth elemental with an activated ability. You know, I've seen worse Magic cards. Sucks that it's not any target. I feel like if you're paying 5 mana for the dude, you should be able to just wing anything. You know what I mean? But as it stands, was I really, my brain, okay guys, this is, I just want to admit this to you because I'm not going to do it. I've realized how dumb I am, but my brain really just flashed for a second. My brain flashed the words walking ballista at me. It was like, well, walking ballista is, you know, that's infinite damage. And it's just, come on, man. Come on, brain. This is not a walking ballista. Shut up. We'll move on to Woodland Cemetery here. We have done these before. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a forest. And it taps for green or black. Very, very good thing right here. And this secret lair drop is actually very, very nice. A very pretty card right there. I like that. That's a beautiful Magic card. But doesn't count. We've done it before. Actual 6th card of the day is not Novella Mental because it's an uncard. And I don't really do uncards. So we'll move on to Wall of Bone. How cool does this look? Dude, this is Magic the Gathering. Do you remember when Magic the Gathering was 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 1/4 skeleton wall? You can pay a black and regenerates with an S. Just regenerates, not regenerate Wall of Bone or anything. Just, you know, I mean, come on. All you got to do is put the word regenerates on there, and then people will know what you're talking about. You don't have to get too wordy or too nerdy. Just regenerates. This card is sick, dude. I still think this card is sick. I wouldn't play it. I wouldn't play it, but I still think it looks so awesome. It gets a skeleton type nowadays. That's awesome. A 1/4 regenerate just blocks everything all day. It blocks it has a high toughness and regenerates. You don't need both, but it has both. Is it worth $25 to get a beta copy of this card? It's uncommon too. A beta uncommon for $25. Maybe. I'm gonna give Wall of Bone not the honorary 5. Faked you out. This is like a 1.4. It's like a 1.4. I think Regenerate is a great ability. I really do. But come on. As much as I love the card, look at this. Look at Anson Maddox. Look at how awesome this whole sheet of bones is. That's dope. But you know, just the way to contrast it and make it look a little bit larger. You've got this giant like ice mountain in the background. It's so cool. So cool, man. Act of Treason is up next. We have done Act of Treason, the original Act of Treason effect. Actually, I guess the original effect is Threaten. So like literally the exact same card as Threaten. I think we've done both of them before. It's good though. It's a good Magic card. Terror Tide from Lost Caverns is up next. 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for a sorcery with Fathomless Descent. All creatures get -X until end of turn, X being the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. Simply play Damnation. I also think that in a lot of cases, like Languish is probably better than this. But it's still a sweeper, and black doesn't get all the best sweepers. And obviously this can be made to be better than Languish. You know, -5, -5, -7, -7 even. It's not like that hard to do that. So, you know, it's not the worst card in the world. It's a black sweeper at 4 mana, a reasonable cost. So We will give this a 6.1. Usually I like sweepers a lot, like a lot, like 6.8 or whatever, 7 for a sweeper. But in this case, I feel like the work you have to put in is a little lame, to be honest. So we'll move on to the first Doctor. Thank God we've done this card before. I, for some reason, don't like doing Doctors specifically. Not Doctor Who cards are fine. I don't mind cards from the Doctor Who set. It's the Doctors I don't like. And don't ask me why. I don't know. It's Rubble Maca's up next, a 6-eyed panther, saber-tooth tiger thing. Imagine encountering this in the wild. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 3/3 cat with Blood Rush. You can pay red and discard Rubble Maca to have target creature get +3/+3 till end of turn. Creature has to be attacking that you're bestowing this ability to. This is in the cat cube. So I haven't actually cast this or anything, but I'm aware of its presence because I haven't actually played with cat cube. I'm still creating it, but done a lot of theory crafting on Cube Cobra. And this thing seems pretty neat as far as like red cat options because it's effectively a giant growth, you know. And that seems pretty neat. So I don't hate this card, like at all. I think it's kind of cool. Let's give our hill giant combined with a pseudo giant growth a 3. I'm going to slap a 3 on. I think it deserves that, you know. Not to say 3's amazing, but it's fine. Mindspring Merfolk. We get an Ether Drift card here. This is a first place gold bordered foil. This one is the not secret lair, but looks like a secret lair art. So that's kind of cool. But the card is actually supposed to look like this. You see how this looks like a normal magic card? This is a blue mana for a 1/1 Merfolk wizard with Exhaust. X and 2 blue, tap it, draw X cards. Put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk creature that you control. In like 3 days, 4 days time, I'm going to have to do the thing on Twitch where I go live and rate every single card in Ether Drift, and I will remind you right now that the scores here will probably be different because I'm going to be mostly, you know, judging for standard and 60 card 1v1s and alike when I rate this card in that exercise. Here, I'm mostly rating for casual commander more than anything else. So this is an interesting exercise. This card is not available to play yet and won't be until February 14th, so like 3 weeks from when I record this. So we have no idea how good this is, like whatsoever. Nobody's ever actually resolved this card. Very likely. I mean, maybe people are testing. But I will say that, first of all, given haste, this can come off the top of your library and be crazy. So that's kind of neat. But I like a 1-drop that converts into value later in the game. And this doesn't convert into value by like growing or becoming larger, right? And just like, I'm a huge dude with no keywords. Like, that's not what's happening here. In this case, we can convert it into, you know, 3 cards like fairly easily. 2 cards even fairly easily. You don't have to sacrifice it, which is neat. It feels like this ability would normally require that or something steep, right? But no, instead you just pump like 4 mana into a draw 2, 5 mana into a draw 3, 6 mana into a draw 4, and you can only do it once. But I think depending on your positioning, right, this could be really good. And you're playing 4 copies of the card in your deck, you know, at least in traditional standard and pioneer and stuff. But again, when it comes to casual commander, this probably has to be in a Merfolk deck. And if it's not, it might have to be in something that blinks or bounces. And blue has a number of options when it comes to that, because you could always effectively, you know, reset the exhaust ability and use it again. And that might be really cool. So I don't put this card past seeing some play in Commander, but my problem in Commander is the same problem I have with it in Standard. You know, until it does the exhaust thing and draws you the cards and whatever, it's just a Merfolk with a Pearl Triton. It's a 1 mana 1/1 with no abilities, completely vanilla. It's a terrible, terrible card. So, and there's a tension on it too, where, you know, am I going to pull the trigger on this right now and draw my 2 cards, or am I going to wait a couple of turns and draw my 4 cards, and the whole time it's just sitting there and you're taking damage and you don't want to block with it. So, and it's susceptible to removal, but there is a pretty big threat of activation. You know, your opponent might sucker you into spending your mana, right? Because I'll put it that way, because they might try to, you know, go for the throat this, and then you feel kind of obligated to spend all of your mana drawing the cards. In which case, sure, you might draw 2 and be technically like up a card on them because they spent a go for the throat, but maybe they had something else to do with their mana that turn and they're just trying to drain you of all of yours. So again, there's tension a couple of ways on this card that I actually really like. I think Magic cards should have tension. Altogether, though, I do have to eventually rate the card for real, and I think I'm going to give it a 6.3 in Cash Commander. You know, if you play it and it gets blown away by removal, you lost a mana. In terms of like tempo and mana value, you lost a mana. It ain't that big of a deal. And there are obviously ways of bringing it back if you need to bring it back. There's plenty of ways of bringing it back on the cheap, you know? Like in Standard, we have like, you know, you've exhausted this, it dies. We have like Helping Hand to get it back for a single mana, right? There's ways of doing stuff at really good mana value. So I like it. But I'll get to rate it again later on this week. We'll see if it gets a 6.3 again. And once we actually get to play with the card, we'll see if it deserves more than that. But technically, final card of the day is Skilled Animator. We just did this card a couple of weeks ago. Next is actually Maroblade Master. This is from Dark Ascension. It costs 3 mana, 1 and 2 red for a 1/1 Vamp Warrior with double strike. And when it deals combat damage to a player, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Neat card. But is it actually good? Very likely no. You know what I mean? Cool that it's got another printing in Foundation's Jumpstart. It's kind of neat because before, you know, a couple of months ago, Dark Ascension was the only printing of this card. So kind of did need another one. Either way, you know, a double strike thing that gets larger is obviously pretty neat. You throw it in your vampire deck as long as you're red-black. That's kind of cool. And there might even be some other like aura-based decks or whatever that wouldn't mind a sort of, you know, a fencing ace that gets larger every turn. So I'm kind of turned on a little bit by like the overall package, but at the end of the day, I do think it's a little bit too much for what you're actually getting. You have to put too much work into it, especially in Commander, for this to really work out for you. That said, solid if nothing else. So I'll give the card a 3.8. And I want to go higher. I just don't think that I should, to be honest. Like realistically, I don't think I should. But final card is the bonus card. You have to do a bonus card on the 200th day. You have to. And that card is Maro Chomper over here from Alara Reborn. 5 mana, 3, a black and a green for a 3/3 zombie lizard with Devour 2. So when it comes into play, you may sack any number of creatures. This creature comes into play with twice that many +1/+1 counters on it. When Maro Chomper comes into play, you gain 2 life for each creature that it devoured. So note that you can sack any number of creatures. Right. Any number, so you can gain an absolute buttload, scientific term, of life and end up with a really huge guy. You know, if you just sack 2 dudes, what do you get? A 7/7 and 4 life, you know? Could definitely be worse. I could see some decks that might be interested in an effect like this, but most decks that would be interested in this kind of effect probably have a lot of better ways of doing it. But interesting how it meets the crossroads, so it won't be lonely. With a bunch of other like green-black aristocrats cards, like technically this is the kind of card like Dina Soul Steeper wants because you're gaining a little bit of life. There's a way of doing that. But you're also sacking stuff, which that deck wants to do. There's a couple of other Golgari commanders along those same lines. So, but even that said, looks perfect for Dina. I don't think Dina wants like a 5 mana effect like this. But the ability to sack any number of creatures all at one time, like Plumb the Forbidden style, is pretty good. But Plumb the Forbidden's a much better card. You know, draw a million rather than gain some life. So, not the best card in the world. I will give it a 3.5, somewhere in there. But that is all for day number 200, everybody. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that we will see you again for episode 201 tomorrow. Love you all, and thanks for sticking with the series this long. We'll be at 1,000 before you know it. But before then, it's, 500, we'll get there together. I'm still enjoying myself, and I hope you guys are too. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love, and be kind.